All right. Welcome back, my friends. Mike's MMA Picks here with your fight morning quick card breakdown show brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMAOddsbreaker. We are here for UFC Vegas 57, where we have Arman Tsarukyan taking on Moises-Giagos. Phenomenal lightweight matchup, high stakes, high caliber fights. 8 out of 12 bouts on this respective card are lined to end inside the distance. Remember, we're inside of the apex, so we're going to see a lot of action forced, less room to stay evasive. Let's start with the first bout of the night where we have 115-pound ladies, Jinh Yuan Frey taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. This is a fight where, as in many low-level women's mixed martial arts fights, there is an incredible amount of variance. You look at Vanessa Demopoulos last time out, blasted, floored, yet got up and walked towards her opponent like a zombie, was able to find the armbar. Jinh Yuan Frey, she's been able to fight disciplined game plans. Looks great for being up there in age. She's 37 years of age and hasn't shown that she's slowing down. I'm not going to go out of my way to make any plays on this bout, as we've seen throughout the course of history in women's mixed martial arts. There is an incredible amount of variance here, and you may want to, if you're interested in Demopoulos, that money line plus 185. I'm not going to criticize anybody who's taken a plus shot at those odds. I'll be picking Frey, but Demopoulos, she plods forward, not very athletic. She's a zombie in a lot of regards. She'll just walk forward to her opponent and looks for an opportunistic submission. I don't think she's going to get it here. I'll be picking Frey. I think there are much better spots on this card. Second bout of the day, where the fights start, by the way, at 7:00 p.m. Eastern time. We've got Mario Bautista coming in as a minus 175 betting favorite, taking on Brian Boom Kelleher. Kelleher, tough as nails, as we've seen in previous fights. He will go tooth and nail, will try to catch you with a counter strike in the pocket. Mario Bautista has been susceptible against Trevin Jones. We've seen his chin was cracked. That was over a year ago. Came back with a dominant victory in his last bout. Bautista looked phenomenal on the scales, coming into his own here, only 28 years of age, has volume, has, I believe, a cardio edge in this spot. Kelleher is going to be at a 5-inch reach disadvantage here. We know Brian Kelleher has that guillotine, that nasty guillotine. He's been implementing grappling heavy game plans in the past, and I'm going to expect him to try to initiate the grappling against Bautista, make this an ugly fight. Bautista, though, has shown solid takedown defense, and even if he is taken down, he's fought his way back to his feet with regularity. I'll be picking Bautista here. The question is, though, does this fight go the distance? Fight doesn't go the distance is sitting at around minus 115 right now at some books. I think this fight may end up in a finish. I could see Bautista getting clipped or potentially getting caught in a guillotine, but I also see Bautista coming out here and possibly landing a fight-ending flying knee, also pouring on volume late and taking Kelleher out of there. So I'll be picking Bautista, and I think this fight will end in a finish. Next up, where we have 125 pounders, we've got Cody Durden taking on JP Buys. JP Buys coming in minus 115 across the board, actually. Durden is a interesting fighter, was blown out of the water by Mikhaev, who's who's a baby. They're 21 years of age, somebody who stormed onto the scene. Durden came into enemy territory there. We've seen Durden falter in past fights, the Jimmy Flick bout. Jimmy Flick ended up retiring after that fight. There have been other situations. Durden, though, he has the, I believe, USA Wrestling tattoo on him and is somebody who is going to come out and try to initiate grappling. Also, JP Buys can get caught, as we've seen in previous matches. But I tweeted this out a couple of days ago. Buys, he's been in there with some stiff competition, some heavy hitters. Bruno Silva, Montel Jackson. These are fighters who could take out most of the division with their heavy strikes. In this bout, JP Buys is the quicker fighter. He's the younger fighter. He's a fighter who won't necessarily go away. You're going to have to take him out of there. If Durden can't land the kill shot, I see Buys winning this bout, and I'll be picking JP Buys in this spot. I see a lot of people on Cody Durden. I understand there's a narrative out there. A lot of things aren't going JP Buys' way, but I think this is a get right spot for him against a low-level competitor in Cody Durden. Next up, we have 135 pounders. We've got Helian Paiva taking on Sergey Morozov. Morozov is a fighter who comes out like a ball of fire, is able to get his grappling going in many bouts. But then we've seen him check out, and he succumbed to the pressure against Douglas Silva de Andrade. Granted, Douglas Silva de Andrade was getting mauled by Morozov in that first round. And then the tide turned in the second. It seemed like Morozov didn't have enough left in the tank, got clipped, and then was choked unconscious. Was also choked unconscious in another bout against Umar Nurmagomedov. We'll talk about Nurmagomedov later on in this breakdown, but Morozov he's got all the tools. The heavy grappling was in there against Khalid Taha and looked great for 15 minutes, came out of that fight completely unscathed. So let's talk about the other side of this fight, because there are two sides to every fight. Helian Paiva, plus 110 underdog, team alpha male fighter who got blown out of the water in the first round against Sean O'Malley. He is a bit of an unknown in some regards because he does have some potential. He's in an awkward spot, though, because he should be a flyweight, but he just can't make the weight anymore. So now he's up here at 135 pounds in no man's land, basically. Doesn't have heavy striking. We haven't seen, I know on the regional scene, he came into the UFC with a great record and has that fight against Kai Kara-France, where he took that fight, I believe, on short notice and performed extremely well. In this spot, if Morozov is unable to get Paiva out of there, I could see Paiva turning the tide, just as opponents have been able to do against Morozov in previous spots. Morozov should be able to get his grappling going early. I see him having another dominant first round. And then Paiva, I could see him turning this thing around late in the fight. We've seen it in a number of situations. Paiva, I think he's going to come back here, but I have to pick Morozov. Morozov has a lot of great tools. He fights out of a solid camp in ATT, although they haven't been performing well lately, let's be honest. So the pick is going to be Morozov. I'm not going to be playing Morozov, though. I'm staying away from this bout. I've seen too many red flags. There are red flags on both sides of this fight, but Morozov, he's in his mid-30s now. This isn't a spring chicken. This is somebody who's been choked unconscious multiple times here. And Paiva, I'm not going to go out of my way to argue that it was a early stoppage, but he wasn't brutally knocked out in that spot. So give me Sergey Morozov here. As you can see, I'm torn in this fight. I was on Morozov against Douglas Silva de Andrade last time out, and I didn't like what I saw in that second round. Kind of fell apart, and that's not something you want to see. Next up, wow, we have an interesting spot here where we have 145 pounders. We've got Shailin Nurmagomedov-Maness taking on TJ Brown. I'm looking at the distance line here at minus 175. You look at Shailin, this is, believe it or not, his 47th professional fight at 28 years of age. That is an incredible number. This is somebody who is coming off of a win against some of the lowest level competition in the UFC, and he's taking on a TJ Brown who fights and trains with Bryce Mitchell, somebody who can slow roast many of his opponents, as we saw against Edson Barbosa last time out. We cashed that ticket. TJ Brown, though, has a propensity to drop the ball. We've seen TJ Brown drop the ball in many spots. In this specific situation, 32 years of age, minus 195 at the betting window. This is another fight where inside of the smaller octagon, we've seen Shailin come in and use his wrestling. Granted, it's Chinese wrestling, and you don't put too much stock in that, but I have to lean towards the TJ Brown side. I do see this fight going to a decision. One thing about Shailin is he's a pretty tough dude. He was in there against Kulibao, who can crack, went the distance. He's going to spam takedowns. We know exactly what he's going to do. Not somebody who's going to try to finish. So take a look at the over 2.5 in this spot. I'll be picking TJ Brown, but not much conviction in that specific pick. Now, interesting bout we have up next at 185 pounds. We've got actually 205 pounds, pardon me. We've got Nchukwi, who has competed down at 185 pounds in the past, taking on Curtis-Vieira. Ulberg is a plus 100 underdog here. Originally, Nchukwi, Lord Irvin fighter, was fairly sizable underdog here. I believe he was in the minus or the plus 120s. Congrats to those who were able to lock in Nchukwi at a plus number. Now he's the favorite in this spot. In this matchup, you've got Ulberg, who has the striking pedigree, the kickboxing pedigree. He's the much quicker fighter here, somebody who is more fluid, more athletic. But there apparently are a lot of holes in his game. We haven't seen the takedown defense tested. He's had some softy matchups here in the UFC, and he hasn't shown me what I'd like to see. He didn't take out Kennedy Nchukwi, and he had a tough time with the water buffalo. Nchukwi here is a bulldozer, and although he is slow and was knocked out last time out, has the physicality, has the clinch game to wear Ulberg out. The problem is, how is he going to get a hold of him? Well, this is in the smaller octagon. So that is one thing that's going in favor, one variable that's going in favor of Nchukwi here. This is a closely lined fight. I'll be leaning and picking Nchukwi. I think that he has a gas tank. He has the physicality, the power. This is, when you look at the reach situation here. Both of these fighters have identical reach, although Carlos Ulberg is a taller fighter. And I know Ulberg fights out of a great camp at City Kickboxing, but just because you fight out of a great camp doesn't turn you into a plus fighter. And I'll be picking Nchukwi here. He's going to be locked in. And I think that although he is coming off of having his lights turned off in his last bout, he was actually performing well and had a couple of rounds under his belt before succumbing to that vicious knee that laid him out late in the third round. So give me Tafon Nchukwi to walk away with a victory. Let's take a look at the comments section here. We've got Jason. Yeah, let's work on cashing some bets today. We have a pretty ambitious card ahead of us, coming off of a phenomenal weekend. Last weekend we hit the Kevin Holland by submission prop at plus 1,400, and looking to continue rolling here. Good morning, Grateful Dude. Pleasure to have you on board with us as we navigate the terrain that is the MMA handicapping world. Grayson, eyes on the prize. You know it. You know it. George, happy to see you here. We are we're headed into the abyss, looking to come out with extra cash in our pockets at the end of the night. And we've got yes, Colin came through. Okay. Manny, you believe Ulberg wins? Possibility. That's why they make the fights, right? Next up, we've got Chris Curtis taking on Rodolfo Vieira. Chris Curtis coming in as a minus 125 betting favorite. As we've seen in previous bouts, Chris Curtis broke down Brendan Allen and took him out of there. Brendan Allen was in a really tough spot, taking on Sean Strickland's buddy. And there was a lot of animosity headed into that bout because Sean Strickland, I believe Allen was talking about the rematch that he wanted to have with Strickland, and that never came to fruition. And Chris Curtis walked away with victory there. This spot, Rodolfo Vieira, the black belt hunter, is a wow. He's a stout specimen who can lock up a submission just about anywhere. What I've been impressed with Vieira, Vieira's part of his game is his takedowns. He's got this double leg, man. He can run you across the cage and put you on your ass. And he's done that against many opponents. The problem with Vieira, though, is his gas tank is a bit of an issue. He has about a round and a half of gas, and then he's toast. We've seen him try to pace himself against Stoltzfus, and he was pumping out that jab and ended up finding the submission rear naked choke in that fight. Here's one thing I want to make clear too. The Anthony Hernandez bout, you watch that back. Rodolfo Vieira was manhandling Anthony Hernandez in the first round. That was a mollywop. You have Chris Curtis coming in here as a minus 125 betting favorite. He's a much more athletic fighter, somebody who has more gas in the tank. If Curtis can stay out of the submission and extend Rodolfo Vieira, oh, this is his fight to win. But there's going to be a lot of pressure, a lot of forward pressure from Vieira. If Vieira fights to his strengths and isn't worried about his gas tank and comes out for the kill, he could and should win this fight. But this bout's scheduled for 15 minutes, and we've seen Vieira fold under pressure, and he hasn't faced significant competition inside of the UFC yet. So this is a very interesting spot. I'll be picking Vieira. I think that inside the distance line for Vieira is a little better look here because you're going to get a better number, and I seriously doubt Vieira is going to have a gas tank to go 15 minutes. He looked like he was emaciated on the scale there. He really it took a lot out of him to make that 185 pounds. This is also somebody who's coming off of a brain injury, had to get cleared to fight again. So I doubt he's going to be wanting to trade in the pocket. He's probably going to want to take this fight to the mat. Now, Chris Curtis, action man, tough guy. This fight takes place at 185 pounds. I'll be picking Vieira, though. I think he's going to end up locking up a submission at some point. But I could see him faltering and just pooping the bed here and ending up extended, has no gas in the tank, and gets TKO'd. I think that's a real viable outcome. So you look at fight doesn't go the distance, sitting at minus 850. So a lot of folks doubt that this fight's going the distance, and I agree with them. Next up, we've got Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Nate Maness. Nate Maness. Hang on one second here. We've got another fight comment. Allen's very overrated. Yes, he tends to fight to the level of his opponents. I thought that he lost his last bout there. So next up, we've got, Nate Maness taking on Umar Nurmagomedov. Look at that line, folks. Look at that line. Nurmagomedov minus 1,065. So that for the novice out there, you're laying over $1,000 to win $100. I don't recommend playing the money line here. Nate Maness plus 615 underdog. I see folks potentially getting lured in to playing Maness. I would not be going that route either. I think there are other ways to possibly turn a profit in this specific spot. And you watch Nurmagomedov, he has the grappling if he wants to go there. He also has a very kick-heavy game. Has some decent hands. Looks a little stiff on the feet, though. In this spot, Maness, he's got these long limbs, and I see Nurmagomedov not wasting much time here, looking to take Maness to the mat. By the way, Maness did not look good on the scales yesterday. He was sweating, and he looked like he put in a really tough cut. Now, some folks see when you watch a fighter after they're cutting weight, if they can't sweat anymore and they're done sweating, they're toast. But it looked like Maness had a sweat going, but he just didn't look good on the scales yesterday. I was interested to see that. Dropping back down to 135 pounds. I believe when I did research on previous bouts, this is somebody who had a roofing business and was contemplating retirement, but then came back. I believe that was before the Luke Sanders fight. By the way, Luke Sanders almost took him out of there. Gravely almost took him out of there. You look at this fight and the potential paths to victory. I see Nurmagomedov winning via submission. That's the most likely outcome here. That's a plus number. But then you also have Maness, who is coming off of a broken jaw, who's tough as nails. I'll give him that. But he's been on the verge of defeat many times. Can get taken down. Has landed takedowns of his own. I don't think he's going to be landing takedowns against Nurmagomedov. I think that this fight's going to end inside the distance. And minus 175, fight doesn't go the distance. Take a look at that. You're getting a minus 1,065 betting favorite. This covers both sides of the fight. And fight doesn't go the distance, minus 175. That is going to be free play that putting out there today. Believe that is a solid option, because if Maness, let's say he lands a kill shot here that has you covered also, I think that's a very low outcome. The odds are indicative of that. But that would be Maness's path to victory. I don't think he's winning a decision against Nurmagomedov here. And Nurmagomedov will likely end this fight inside the distance and via submission. So give me Umar Nurmagomedov to win. Next up, we have Thiago Moises taking on Christos-Giagos. Christos-Giagos coming in as a plus 200 underdog against a fighter who was brutally destroyed against Joel Alvarez last time out. Thiago Moises minus 250 at the betting window. Interesting to see a fighter coming off of 2 back-to-back losses here where he was finished sitting at minus 250. That doesn't happen very often. But then you look at the level of competition he's faced. Islam Makhachev was able to basically cut through Moises like a warm knife through butter. And Giagos, look at the level of competition he's faced throughout his UFC career. This is going to shock folks. Gilbert Burns. Well, this is on the regional scene. Gilbert Burns, Josh Emmett, Chris Wade was in the UFC, Charles Oliveira, Arman Tsarukyan. It's incredible how Giagos has managed to get these matchups booked for him. I don't know who his manager is, but that is a rough resume to come out with victories. Granted, he's still has 19-9 record. Giagos, he'll fight hard for your money, man. He will go for it, but then he'll empty his tank. Still only 32 years of age, plus 200 underdog. And Thiago Moises, I was very impressed with Grant Dawson. Both of these guys are in the training room together at ATT, putting in some serious work. And 15-6 overall record. You hear about Thiago Moises' jiu-jitsu game. You don't get to see it that often. He's against Alexander Hernandez, showed off his striking and can pop. He can crack. Minus 250. I think that's a little too high of a price to pay here, considering Giagos is a strong starter and is a solid wrestler. Giagos blown out of the water last time out against Arman Tsarukyan, but I am not completely counting him out of this fight, especially what's been going on with Moises. The way he was brutally destroyed by Joel Alvarez. Concerns. So I wouldn't be using Moises as a parlay piece. I think that he does win this fight. I think that the likely outcome is Moises wins this fight late inside the distance. I think that is a realistic outcome here. I'll be picking Moises to win, but Giagos is he's a tough guy who comes in solid wrestling, but he just runs out of gas late. Let's see. All right, let's continue this journey, my friends. Here we go. Wow. Heavyweights. This is what should be a slobber knocker here, where we have Josh Parisian taking on Alan Baudot. Baudot minus 115, both across the board here. Parisian, I got to put this out there. You watched the last fight against Dontel Mays and completely destroyed in the grappling department. And what Parisian has said in the lead up to this bout against Baudot is that he was not mentally ready for his fight against Dontel Mays. So that is a major concern. At this level in the UFC, you're not coming ready to fight. I am at a loss for words. Parisian barely makes the heavyweight limit, 265.5 yesterday. That's been his MO, to come in at the limit. Had a win in the Contender Series. Baudot blown out of the water in previous matchups. Tom Aspinall took him out of there. Nascimento looked much better in that bout. And then you have the Parker Porter fight. Both of these fighters faced the mutual opponent is Parker Porter. And in this spot, Parisian, although he's the younger fighter, not every fighter has a shelf life, an equal shelf life here. And Baudot, the better striker here, more fleet of foot, fighting out of a solid camp out of the MMA factory in France. Somebody who, against Parker Porter, looked like he was much more improved out there from a technical standpoint, from a pacing standpoint. And he had some vitality, some life in him. Too much, to be honest. He was hollering at his opponent, at Parker Porter. There's a Freudian slip there. Apologize. In this spot, Baudot is going to be my pick. I think he's got much more in the tank than Parisian does. Parisian could potentially put Baudot on his back and accrue significant amounts of top time here. But Baudot, the much cleaner striker here, somebody who seems like he has more in the tank. I'll be picking Baudot to win, and I don't hate that money line at -115. Interesting, too, how Baudot against Porter, folks went out of their way to put a significant chunk of coin on fight doesn't go the distance in that spot. You're looking here, this fight doesn't go the distance. We're talking heavyweights is sitting at -155, which is interesting. And you look at Parisian, granted, he was grounded out against Mays last time out. Here, this fight, I think this fight's going to end inside the distance. That's going to be my prediction. I'm going to predict Alain Baudot wins this fight inside the distance. So give me the fighter from France to win. Next up, wow, this is a hell of a matchup here. Shavkat Rakhmonov taking on Neil Magny. Neil Magny, who's been a stalwart of the welterweight division, somebody who has fought the who's who, was lining up to fight Chimaev, and now lots of respect for Neil Magny, coming off of a situation where we ended up cashing Neil Magny last time out against Max Griffin. That was a sketchy fight, though. Let's be honest. Griffin had Magny on skates and almost out of there. Shavkat Rakhmonov, 15 wins, 15 finishes. Has fought some legitimate competition, not nearly the level of caliber of Neil Magny. But from what I've seen out of Shavkat Rakhmonov is that he's able to go for the kill just about anywhere in the fight. He's somebody who we cashed on when he made his UFC debut against Alex Oliveira at -107 at the betting window. Rakhmonov in this spot, I wouldn't go out of my way to play his money line at -470 because we haven't seen him extended in fights. And this is a 3-round fight. Magny, it's interesting what type of game plan he has here. Is he going to come in and try to grind on Rakhmonov? Because that could put him in a situation where he ends up getting submitted. Or is he going to try to be long, stay evasive, get in, get out? Believe Magny has a couple of inches of reach advantage in this spot. The taller fighter. Rakhmonov is a fighter to watch. I think he's going to get this done inside the distance. Like the line on Shavkat Rakhmonov to win inside the distance at -135. At one point, that was where it was sitting at. Now it's ballooned out a little bit, not that much though. And you also have fight doesn't go the distance at -195. My question is, Neil Magny, inside of the smaller octagon, how is he going to stay evasive for extended periods of time here? We saw that the Carlston Harris fight got sucked into just a few exchanges and faltered. Harris faltered there. In this spot, I'll be picking Shavkat Rakhmonov to win inside the distance. And I'm excited to see where Rakhmonov goes from here on out. One thing, though, I got to preface this with, Magny is tough as nails. We've seen the Ponzinibbio fight, etc. He's been he's willing to hang in there. RDA was able to smoke him on the mat. There have been other situations where Magny's succumbed in the past, and I believe he will in this spot. I like the line, the inside the distance line on Rakhmonov, and I'll be picking him to win. Let's see. We've got a few comments here. Let's see. All right. Interesting. Magny looked rough against Griffin. Yeah. And he is getting up there in age. One of the nicest guys in the sport, has done so much to raise the morale in mixed martial arts world. Magny does not have power and can't out grapple Rakhmonov. Yeah, I agree to a certain extent, but what Magny has done in the past is try to slow cook his opponents, and he's been able to do that. The Jeff Neal fight, that was something that taught us a few things, but Rakhmonov much more dangerous than Neal. All right, so let's get to the main event of the evening, my friends. We've been waiting for this one. This is a hell of a matchup where we have Moises-Giagos taking on Arman Tsarukyan. Gamrot coming in as a plus 230 underdog, and Tsarukyan, I believe he's hovering at minus 260 at some books, minus 285 at BetDSI. Interesting spot here. I watched weigh-ins. I've watched all of these fighters competing both inside the UFC and on the regional scene, and both of these fighters are plus level fighters, elite fighters. The Carlos Diego Ferreira fight, by the way, Carlos Diego Ferreira, I was at his fight against OAM. I've seen him fight throughout his career. He's a very talented fighter. Gave Gregor Gillespie a run for the money. By the way, when is Gregor Gillespie going to make a decision and come back to the sport? He should be up on this UFC Long Island card that's about to take place next month, but no dice. Arman Tsarukyan was in there against Matt Frevola and other fighters. Steamroller. Tsarukyan is elite. He is someone who, against Davi Ramos, we saw the development of his striking game. He is someone who, against Joel Alvarez, landing those hellacious elbows, adding new wrinkles to the game every time out. 25 years of age, somebody who made weight, is in phenomenal shape, has all the tools. The one concern of mine would be, seems to leave his chin out there at times. He's very aggressive, believes in himself. Can Gamrot land a kill shot on Tsarukyan? I haven't seen a lot of power from Gamrot. That's one thing that he has missing from his game, but he has cardio. This is Gamrot. Cardio, wrestling, submission, volume, not necessarily overwhelming strength, though. Tsarukyan, keys to victory here. Dominant wrestling, positionally sound, hellacious elbows, improving every time out. Questionable deep into the fight gas tank wise. We haven't necessarily seen Tsarukyan fade that much, but he was, that debut against Islam Makhachev taught me so much about Tsarukyan's will. He's a future title holder in my eyes, and I do like Arman Tsarukyan here. Hoping we would get a better price than this, but he should win this fight, and I'll be picking Arman Tsarukyan. The other thing is, watch the weigh-ins here. These two fighters were like two bulls colliding out there. They want this win very badly, and originally I was contemplating the over 2.5. That has ballooned out. This fight, I have a feeling, is going to end inside the distance, just by the sheer magnitude of what's at stake and the clash of styles. We've seen Gamrot against Diego Ferreira. He began to fade, and I think the pressure of Tsarukyan is just going to be too much. Especially inside of the apex, there is going to be nowhere to hide. So give me Arman Tsarukyan to win, and to win so inside the distance. I want to wish everybody a phenomenal fight day. I also like Tsarukyan to win outright. I could see him winning by a decision here. So I want to wish everyone a phenomenal fight day. Remember to go get what's yours. And also, if you're wondering who to tune in for as far as content goes, look at their track record. Take a look. Are they a long-term winner? Do they provide solid analysis? Are they working on creating their brand? Before you create your brand, you need to have some tangible results to fall back on. There should be a track record, winning track record. So just be aware that you need to make sure that you're listening to folks who are long-term winners, not long-term losers. Okay. Want to wish everybody a phenomenal fight day. Remember to go get what's yours. And let's do this, my friends. Let's go. Appreciate it.